Girl visits school nurse with swollen hand. What they discover will haunt you forever. It was a day like any other at Maplewood Middle School, but the moment Carrie stumbled into the nurse's office, everything changed. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, making the linoleum floor seem darker than it actually was. Carrie's hand stood out against the stark whiteness of her school uniform, swollen to twice its size, bruised and marred. It looked as if it had been stung by a swarm of hornets. Her wide eyes were filled with terror, a deep fear that made even the bravest kids tremble. "What happened to you?" the nurse gasped, her voice shaky and breathless. The other kids in the waiting room leaned in, whispers slinking through the air like smoke. "Did she touch something dangerous? Is it contagious?" A ripple of unease spread through the room, doubling the temperature in the cramped space. Carrie's heart pounded, and she felt a tightness in her chest, each thump matching the rising panic. As the nurse examined Carrie's hand, the air turned thick. She noticed something, a shiny glint beneath the skin. What was it? A piece of glass, she thought. No, it blinked. Just beneath the surface, something moved. A shiver traveled down everyone's spine, a wave of collective dread surfaced. Eyes widened. Parents whispered, teachers exchanged hurried glances. Carrie's voice wobbled as she stammered, I found it in the locker room. It had these strange symbols." Words faltered in the air like a sudden gust, leaving only the silence behind them, heavy with anticipation. What could have happened? Was it a prank? A curse? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The nurse's hand trembled as she gingerly pressed down on Carrie's palm. That glint seemed to pulse, and the girl gasped. The room filled with a misty silence, all eyes fixated. What lay hidden beneath her skin? Was it just a mystery waiting to be uncovered, or something much darker? The clock ticked ominously on the wall, drumming up an urgency that took on a life of its own. Whatever secrets that hand held, they were about to come spilling out, and no one would ever be quite the same again. The nurse's heart raced, her breath hitching as she pressed harder against Carrie's palm, both in shock and a desperate need for answers. The glint became a pulsating beacon, like a warning light breaking through the haze of fear that blanketed the room. Murmurs turned into a cacophony of anxious voices. What is happening? Is she going to be okay? Someone call the principal. Carrie's face twisted in pain. It hurts. Please stop. But even through the agony, she couldn't tear her gaze away from her hand. The glint seemed to shimmer faster in response to the nurse's probing. Gathering her composure, the nurse glanced around, her mind racing. Let me get a doctor, she stammered, backing away from Carrie. Before she could step out, an ominous crackle echoed softly through the room. The lights flickered violently, plunging them into momentary darkness, sending gasps cascading through the onlookers. Just as suddenly, the lights returned, but now they shone on something shocking, an engraving on Carrie's desk, faint and almost ghostly, mirroring the symbols Carrie had mentioned. What is that? A voice squeaked from the back, the unmistakable spark of curiosity echoing through fear. All eyes shifted. The nurse felt a prickle of dread dance down her spine. A chill descended in the room, gnawing at the edges of comfort. Carrie squinted at the desk, her heart racing faster than a runaway train. That's it. She cried, pointing frantically. Those are the symbols. A wave of tremors rippled through the room, each student frozen, holding their breath. The nurse's mind whirled. How could something so potentially dangerous reside in a school, hidden in plain sight? Okay, stay calm, she urged, attempting to reclaim the air of authority. Carrie, this might not be the best place for us to figure this out. We need to go to the hospital. I can't take any risks. But it was too late. As the nurse reached for the phone, chaos erupted. Carrie's hand convulsed involuntarily, causing a shrill scream to rent the air. The pulsating glint intensified, radiating a soft but blinding light that filled the room. Students fell back, hands flying up to shield their eyes. Carrie! The nurse shouted, panic rising in her throat. Then came the moment that everyone would later remember as surreal. The light coalesced into a swirling mist that expanded and enveloped Carrie. As if it had a sentience of its own, the mist moved, slowly wrapping around Carrie before retreating back into her hand. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, broken only by Carrie's shallow breathing. Is she okay? Someone cried from the corner, fear lacing every word. Then, in a sudden flash, Carrie's eyes widened, reflecting an unearthly glow. The locker room, it's cursed. She screamed, the words spilling like an uncontrollable torrent. You have to believe me. The nurse's heart dropped. Everyone in that room realized, with chilling clarity, that something had awakened inside Carrie, not just a physical ailment, but a door to an unimaginable terror. As the students exchanged fearful glances, a haunting thought gripped them: what truly lay hidden in that locker room? And what would become of Carrie now that she had awakened it? The clock continued to tick, but this time it felt like a countdown, a slow descent into an abyss. A door creaked open somewhere down the hall, and the whirring sound of a robotic vacuum echoed ominously. What lingered beyond that door? And was Carrie's fate now sealed alongside whatever haunted those lockers? They were about to find out. The air crackled with tension as students backed away, their eyes darting towards Carrie, who seemed to hover between realms. A few whispered, fear coiling tightly in their voices. What does she mean, cursed? Someone murmured, utterly bewildered. The nurse's heart raced, but her training kicked in. She had to stay in control, even as the reality of Carrie's words loomed like a storm cloud. Everyone, listen to me. The nurse called out, her voice slicing through the rising panic. We need to move, but a sudden pulse of energy radiated from Carrie, cascading through the air like a shockwave. Students recoiled as the lights flickered again, more violently this time, and a thunderous crack echoed across the classroom, rattling windows. What is going on? A girl screamed, tears spilling down her cheeks. Without waiting for a response, the nurse rushed forward, gripping Carrie's shoulders gently but firmly. Carrie, you need to focus. Tell me what you see. What is in the locker room? Carrie gasped, her breath catching. It's not just symbols, it's a darkness. Something was trapped and I think I accidentally set it free. The nurse felt a chill crawl across her skin. What do you mean set it free? She prodded. You have to tell me everything. The energy in the room pulsed again, throbbing like a beating heart. Shadows flickered in the corners, elongating and warping. The nurse forced herself to look away from them and back to Carrie's terrified face, glimmering with a mix of fear and something deeper wisdom of a darkness that was beyond their comprehension. I saw it, Carrie stammered, the light in her eyes dimming. It made me see things it wanted. It kept whispering to me, her voice trailed off, shaking with a fear that resonated with everyone in the room. A storm of whispers erupted around them. We need to leave now. This is insane. Maybe it'll get us if we stay. Suddenly, the door to the classroom slammed shut, and the handle rattled violently. Everyone turned, wide-eyed. It felt like the walls themselves were alive, pulsating with a breath of their own. The robotic vacuum continued its mundane whirring from down the hallway, but it felt like an eerie counterpoint to the chaos that surrounded Carrie. Someone's attempting to lock us in. A boy yelled, inching backwards towards the window, as the sense of entrapment heightened. The nurse, feeling desperation gnaw at her insides, turned back to Carrie. Listen, we need you to be brave. We have to find a way to contain whatever this is. Can you tell us where it is? Carrie hesitated, her hand twitching involuntarily. I don't know. It's everywhere. It's in the lockers. It won't stop until it gets what it wants. The surface of her palm glimmered ominously, the pulsing light matching her frantic heartbeat. A cold wave of dread washed over the room as the murmurs died down into a tense silence. In that moment, everyone understood, they were caught in something far beyond their control. Look! One of the students shouted, her voice barely a murmur. The symbols, they're glowing. Fingers pointed, and they all turned to see the same symbols that had once been engraved on Carrie's desk were now etched in fiery brilliance across the lockers, pulsating in sync with whatever force was stirring within Carrie. Could they suppress this evil before it consumed them? The nurse glanced at the grim faces of her students, realizing the depth of their peril. We have to act fast, she whispered, a resolve igniting within her. With one swift motion, she grabbed Carrie's hand, a lifeline in a crashing sea. Follow me. We're going to face this together. As they approached the door, a painful scream erupted from Carrie, and the locker room door creaked open behind them, darkness spilling out like liquid nightmares. What would emerge from that abyss? And would they have the strength to confront what waited in the shadows? Only time would reveal the chilling truth. The air thickened, brimming with unseen dread as the darkness poured from the locker room like an inky tide. The nurse's heart pounded in sync with the throbbing light on Carrie's palm. Panic gripped the students as shadows swirled, wrapping around their ankles, pulling at them with invisible hands. Stay back! The nurse yelled, pulling Carrie toward the windows meant to shield them from the chaos. Her mind raced, searching for a plan, but nothing compromised the overwhelming fear tightening her throat. What if it gets us? A boy cried, his voice rising above the unsettling crackle of energy. The shadows writhed, whispering secrets that made skin prickle and breaths quicken. We can't let it trap us. Stay close. The nurse forced the urgent words through her clenched teeth, a desperate mantra against the growing terror that encroached upon them like a shroud. Carrie's eyes widened as she tore her gaze from the dark swirling mist. It's feeding off our fear. She gasped, panic straining her voice. Do you see that? The nurse felt the air shift, a pulse of power emanating stronger from Carrie. She stepped closer, glancing worriedly at the glowing symbols. You have to push it away. Focus on the light. But Carrie's face twisted in agony, her fingers curling and twitching, locked in a battle with the darkness invading her mind. I can't hold it back. Just then, the shrieking laughter of the shadows clawed for their attention. The symbols on the lockers began to pulse erratically, glowing brighter, hotter, a fire demanding sacrifice. A cacophony of whispers rose into a deafening roar, clamoring for release. Make it stop! Cried a girl, her face creased with terror. She slammed her hands to her ears, but it did nothing to drown out the horror creeping into their veins. Gather your strength. The nurse shouted, reaching out to grab Carrie's other hand. Together, we'll fight this. At that moment, Carrie's grip tightened. A blinding light exploded from her palm, illuminating the room like a beacon cutting through a storm. Shadows shrieked in fury, retreating as though the light were a sacred flame. But the hold of darkness didn't break easily. An oppressive weight surged from the locker room, coiling around their limbs, pulling them toward the darkness again. The nurse wrestled against the pull, her eyes locked onto Carrie as hope sparked anew. Carrie, listen to me. You are stronger than this. The words spurred her on, a lifeline thrown into the depths of despair. With a sudden fierce resolve, Carrie shook her head. No, I want to let it win. The light expanded in a brilliant halo, pushing back the shadows that clung to them like a suffocating fog. Determined, she released a piercing scream, channeling every ounce of her fear into defiance. Stay with me. Don't let it drown you. The nurse urged as they collectively fought the dark tide, their minds and spirits entwined. Then, something shifted. The shadows recoiled, their whispers transforming into panicked moans. The room filled with an unnatural stillness, pulsing energy radiating from Carrie that enveloped everyone, banishing the absurd terrors that sought to claim them, but just as calm began to settle, the doors of the locker room slammed shut with a thunderous boom, a bone-rattling reminder that the battle was far from over. A flicker of excitement mixed with dread coursed through the group. "Is it gone?" someone whispered, fear lacing their voice, making the question quiver. "No," Carrie panted, breathless but resolute, glancing at the impenetrable door as shadows danced beneath it. "It's waiting and it's angry." The silence hung like a loaded gun, tension building again. What else could be unleashed? "Perhaps we shouldn't have angered it," the nurse murmured, dread seeping into her every word. As they steadied themselves for whatever came next, tension crackled in the air, thickening like fog turning cold. "We need to make a decision," the nurse said, trying to reinstate order amidst rising panic. "Do we confront it again, or find a way out?" The students exchanged glances, uncertainty gripping them harder than fear. Which would risk their lives more, the darkness waiting behind the door, or the unknown beyond it? The terrifying answer lurked just out of sight. They had to choose. A heartbeat seemed to reverberate through the air. The students huddled closer, each breath more rapid than the last. Hope flickered like a candle in a storm, barely holding on. "Listen." The nurse's voice cut through the fear. "We need a plan. Carrie's light is powerful, but it can't hold forever. If we confront it, we might have a chance to contain it. But what if we can't?" A girl's voice trembled, wrapping itself around a lump of dread. "What if it takes us?" A wave of murmurs rippled among the group. The notion hung in the air like a bitter taste, fear mingling with desperation. "We can't just sit here," someone shouted, eyes wild. "It'll find a way to break through. We have to act. Now or never." Another yelled, determination sparking in the mix of dread. Carrie gritted her teeth, her palms still glowing, a pulsating symbol of hope and impending dread. "We can fight it. I know I can. I just need." A bone-chilling scream echoed from the interior of the locker room, shattering their fragile resolve. It was a wail, twisted with anguish, echoing like a dying animal. The nurse felt ice creep down her spine. "We can't waste time. Get ready, Carrie." Just as they steadied themselves, a rush of wind blasted through the room, a harbinger of chaos. The air grew colder, filling with a suffocating weight. The shadows beneath the door twitched violently, eager for release, eager to feast on their fear. "On three," the nurse commanded, rallying their scattered courage. 1, 2. The door shuddered as if acknowledging their imminent challenge. Dark tendrils crept around the edges, whispering curses, and threats that sank into their hearts like nails. 3. With a synchronized force, the students flung themselves against the door. It screeched, fighting back, but they pushed with every ounce of power. Carrie felt the energies swirling, pulling at her, trying to draw her in with dark promises, but she fought against it. "Light!" she cried out, channeling everything she had. The air crackled, light erupted, clawing against the darkness, creeping toward the space between the door and the frame. The shadows screamed, furious at being challenged. The walls shook, vibrating with a dreadful pulse that aimed to unnerve them. "Not like this!" the nurse screamed, her voice breaking. "Keep pushing. Hold on to the light." And then, just as they thought they gave it their all, the door flew open with a thunderous crash. Darkness explodes outward, swirling and writhing, reaching for them with a life of its own. A void spilled into the room, bending reality, and unleashing a cyclone of despair. Another horrified scream pierced the chaos, different from before. This one echoed a mix of a frenzy, desperation, and surrender. "Run!" the nurse shouted, her heart racing as the dark force lunged for her, grasping at her limb. But Carrie held her ground. "No. We need to stand together. We can't let it take anyone." In the center of chaos, Carrie raised her light high. It sparkled, casting beams that sliced through the shadows. The room flickered in and out of reality, caught between the light and the impending dark, but as they began to push back, the shadows seemed to coalesce into a singular figure, twisting into something horrific, a silhouette formed of everything they feared. Carrie gasped, it knows us." The figure loomed larger, looming more threatening with each breath. The air thickened as it loomed over them, becoming a monstrous representation of darkness personified. "Can you see it?" the nurse whispered, terror flooding her voice. They clustered closer to Carrie, but some students trembled, eyes darting toward the exit. "What are we waiting for?" a boy shouted, panic tinging his voice. "No more running," Carrie said decisively, standing taller despite the fear threatening to engulf her. "We're not leaving until we defeat this thing." The monster lunged forward. Could they really face it? The shadows shouted, almost mocking them. Was it ready to consume their hopes? The heroism in Carrie's light and the dark forces before them were about to collide. Would they unleash their last ounce of strength to survive, or would this mark the moment everything came crashing down? The last breaths of resolve flickered, but the fight for survival had just begun. The silence that followed the intrusion of darkness was suffocating. It wrapped around them like a cold blanket, stifling the sounds of their racing hearts. Carrie held her light steady, even as uncertainty whipped through her like a frigid wind. The figure loomed, an amalgamation of their deepest fears, flickering in the dim light like a mirage. "What is it?" one of the students whispered, eyes wide with terror. "What does it want?" Carrie stepped closer, gripping the light tighter. "It wants to break us. But we won't let that happen." The entity shifted, its elongated limbs reaching towards them, a grotesque parody of human form. The shadows seemed to pulse and breathe, gathering strength as they rivaled the flickering beacon emitting from Carrie's palm. With each step Carrie took forward, the darkness recoiled, but not without hissing angrily, a sound that vibrated through the room like nails on a chalkboard. "Remember why we're here," the nurse shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. "We have to stand together. This thing is feeding off our fear." Carrie couldn't afford to look back. The memories of moments lost, friendships torn apart, and secrets buried deep surged through her mind. Each thought fed the light, coursing through her veins with an electric intensity. "Everyone, join hands. We need to amplify this." With trembling hands, the students reached out, forming a circle. Their fingers intertwined, bringing warmth amid the cold dread. One by one, they closed their eyes, echoing Carrie's resolute cry, "Strength in unity. Let it be our shield." The darkness hesitated, its form flickering as if trying to grasp the strength of their collective hope. A deep, rumbling laugh erupted from it, ominous and low, reverberating against the walls like distant thunder. "You think you can resist me?" it taunted. "You're merely snacks for the void. I know your hidden fears, your failures." The group wavered, doubt crawling up their spines, but Carrie's energy surged brighter. "No. We are more than our fears." She focused on her light, forcing it to expand, each heartbeat synchronized with her friend's resolve. The spectral monstrosity shrieked in agony as the light clashed against its form, bright white against inky black. Chunks of darkness began to peel away, revealing what lay beneath the twisted essence of the school hallways where whispers lingered and echoes never faded. Each layer of shadow lost responded with shrieks, battling against the blinding radiance of their unity. "Keep it up!" shouted the nurse, voice fierce but laced with fear as she looked around, sensing the struggle in her students' eyes, the weight of collective dread resting heavily on their shoulders. But as they pressed on, a dreadful realization began to sink in. This wasn't a mere confrontation of light versus dark. They were unearthing real memories, raw regrets wrestling to be acknowledged. Carrie's heart raced, she had to force the darkness to lose its grip before more truths could emerge. "We need something stronger. Think about your happiest memory, something that makes you feel invincible." They exchanged glances, a mix of fear and confusion written across their faces. In the chaos, light flickered again, but this time it was different. It was infused with shared laughter, ice cream summers, and moments of wild joy that seemed to resurrect the ghost of hope. The figure howled, "You can't escape me." But the voices of their memories crescendoed, combined with Carrie's fervent energy, rallying against the enveloping shadows. A brilliant beam shot from their entwined hands, illuminating every corner of the dark room, demanding every bizarre creature of fear to retreat. Screams echoed as shadows shrunk, yet the figure convulsed, flickering back within its chaotic form, angry and desperate. "Now! Finish it!" Carrie cried, but just as they were ready to strike the final blow, the shadow recoiled, its eyes igniting with something much darker, much more sinister. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning." And then, darkness seeped into the very walls, shifting, threatening to pull them into a different realm altogether. "Hang on!" Those who dared to hope shouted, but thick fog began to swirl around them, pulling their very essence apart. As an eerie voice echoed, the very fabric of reality twisted, leaving them gasping in a world that blurred their senses. "What awaits you beyond this plane will haunt you forever." The ground beneath began to rumble. Had they really set themselves free, or merely stepped deeper into an abyss from which there was no return? As the fog enveloped them, chaos erupted. The ground trembled, their circle breaking under the pressure of the spectral storm. Carrie struggled to hold her light steady, but the fog grew thicker, swirling with malicious intent. Each breath felt heavy, oppressive, dragging them deeper into an otherworldly realm where their worst nightmares lurked just beyond their vision. With sudden clarity, Carrie caught sight of something beyond the haze, shadows flitting like moths around a flame. They twisted and turned, every glimmer of movement feeding on their anxiety. "No! Together!" she shouted, desperate to reclaim the warmth of their unity. Heartbeats raced alongside her words, driving her forward in a bid to gather strength. A shadow flickered closer, eyes gleaming like shards of glass. It lunged, reaching for Carrie, but she pivoted, the light in her hand glowing with desperate brilliance. "Get back!" she screamed, raising the light as though it were a weapon. The figure hesitated just long enough for fear to morph into defiance within her. "Think of your favorite place," the nurse shouted, panic lacing her tone, but Carrie understood. It wasn't just about joy, it was about escape. They needed to remember the safe spaces, the warmth of home, family, and love. Carrie squeezed her eyes shut, forcing her mind to drift away from the encroaching darkness. She pictured her grandmother's kitchen, thick cookies baking, laughter ringing like chimes. The scent of cinnamon and warmth flooded her senses. This was their fight. This was the memory they had to seize. The whispers surged, embraced by the memories of all her friends. A chorus of joy erupted, reflecting off the oppressive walls, even as the darkness lashed out in protest. "Unity! Love!" they echoed, voices intertwining, forming a shield tighter than steel. The menacing figure shrieked, a deafening noise that reverberated through their bones. "You think this light can save you? You're lost, just as I was." It lunged again, but this time, it struck the illuminated barrier, sending waves of despair washing back with each impact. "We won!" falter. A girl near Carrie hollered, grounding them all. The strength in their circle flared, it became palpable, a force igniting the air. The light grew brighter, the shadows losing their grip. The ground beneath them quaked violently, but they held on, drawing strength from one another. Suddenly, like a dam bursting, their collective power blasted forth, shattering the darkness that coiled around them. It peeled back, retreating into the corners of the room like spooked feral cats, hissing as it got driven into the dark abyss. But as the shadows receded, a new horror emerged. The walls melted away, revealing a vast expanse of swirling colors that seemed both inviting and terrifying. A glimmer of neon hues morphed into faces, people they knew twisted and distorted, memories in disrepair. Carrie felt every regret pull at her heartstrings, each face reminded her of lost chances, of friendships that had frayed. "What is this place?" someone whispered, dread clawing at their voice. This is the manifestation of everything we've hidden," Carrie panted, eyes wide. Fear seeped back in, creeping up her spine like ice. We have to confront them. The faces swirled faster, and Carrie could hear their voices, echoing accusations and lonely memories. You left us behind. You thought you could escape. But Carrie felt a flicker of warmth. No more running. We have to face it, she shouted, glaring at the haunting face of a childhood friend, her own undone past reflected back at her. As she stepped forward, she sensed the impending chaos building around them. Would facing their past truly set them free? Or would confronting these lost fragments only lead deeper into the void that threatened to swallow them whole? Only time would tell. But they had to decide: would they face the music, or could they succumb to the encroaching darkness once more? The choice lingered, a precipice hovering beneath them, waiting for the next step. The swirling colors intensified, each face glimmering with shards of pain and regret. Carrie felt their weight, an invisible chain binding her to the mistakes she had tried to forget. She steeled herself, heart pounding as she took another step forward. The faces morphed with each heartbeat, their mouths opening and closing soundlessly, and Carrie strained to listen for the words that had long been buried. Face your demons, Carrie. One of them screamed, a boy from her past, his face disfigured with shadows of old anxieties. You think you can run away from this? No. I won't. Her voice was unsteady, but she clung to the resolve within. I will confront you all and I will not back down. A surge of energy coursed through her, fueled by the unity with her friends at her side. They had been scared. They had felt lost. But now, together, they formed a bulwark against their own despair. Carrie could feel their collective will, a ring of defiance burning bright amidst the consuming darkness. Find your light. The nurse's voice rang out, fierce and unwavering. You need to remember who you are, not just what you've lost. Carrie closed her eyes once more, searching deep inside for the flickers of hope buried beneath memories that tugged at her heart. She felt the warmth of her grandmother's kitchen again, the laughter, the sweet smell of cookies, the unconditional love. It wasn't just a memory, it was a lifeline woven with threads of hope. As she opened her eyes, the shimmering faces morphed again, now reflecting joy instead of longing. You're stronger than you think. They yelled, the voices blending harmoniously, rising above the tempest of doubt threatening to engulf her. Carrie stepped further into the swirling mass, feeling her friends pressing closer, their hands clasped together. She could see the fear flickering in their eyes but also determination. This was at the moment they would all face who they had become and who they wanted to be. The dark wisps of smoke began swirling violently around them, shrieking in protest as they closed in. No. You can't. They howled, but the collective light of their shared strength pushed back, crystallizing into a brilliant shield. Together. Carrie shouted, feeling the power pulsate within. They drew upon every shred of love they had given and received, feeding it into the light illuminating their circle. The pulsating energy struck outward, hitting the dark figures who hissed like snakes retreating from the sun. The faces around them twisted, contorting into agonized expressions. But Carrie could only feel the warmth of her own resolve blooming, as the dark pasts faded like tendrils of smoke, but in the midst of their triumph, a chill swept through them as the ground trembled again. A low rumble echoed, shaking the very essence of the vibrant colors as a darker shape began to emerge. It loomed larger than anything they had faced before, a grotesque silhouette forming from memories long thought vanquished, its size overwhelming and primal. What is that? Someone gasped. Dread rippled through the circle. It was a shadow with an ethereal glow, capturing all their mistakes, their fears, and their hidden pains in one horrific entity. Carrie's heart raced as the figure's glow intensified, revealing countless eyes that seemed to pierce through her soul. You think you can escape me? It boomed, the voice reverberating within their bones. I am your collective regret, your darkest choice, and I am coming for you. It was a reminder of every moment they had buried. Would they stand against this monstrous embodiment of their pain, or would it crumble their fragile alliance into chaos again? The moment had arrived, sending a shiver down their spines. The precipice loomed ominously, and there was no turning back. How would they confront the very essence of their fears? The chilling whisper lingered in the air, a question left hanging as dread pooled heavily around their hearts. Would they face this ultimate darkness, or would it seal their fates forever? A wave of fear washed over Carrie as the monstrous figure before them shifted and shuddered, its eyes narrowing to slits filled with malice. "You cannot hide," it hissed, its voice like gravel, "I know every secret you've buried. It is time to pay the price." The group tightened their grips on one another's hands, the warmth of their unity battling against the overwhelming chill radiating from the shadow. "We can't let it break us," Carrie shouted, searching their faces for resolve. "Together, we're stronger." But doubt flickered in the circle. Flickers of memories danced in the corners of their minds, moments they'd rather forget, the ugly truths, the betrayals, the guilt that stitched their spirits into fragments. The shadow stretched, absorbing the air around it, intoxicating their thoughts with despair. "Remember who you are." The nurse's voice chimed again, piercing through the dark fog. "Do not let it take you. It is not your truth." Carrie shut her eyes tight, breathing deeply. The memories flooded her, chaotic and sharp, the times she had hurt others, the friends she had lost because of her choices, the nights spent crying alone. They threatened to pull her down, to drown her in regret. "No," she cried, clenching her fists. "That's not who I am." Sparks of warmth ignited in her chest. The laughter of her grandma danced in her mind again, the comforting embrace of friends during tough times. Their memories felt like anchors, grounding her. Carrie opened her eyes, her heart racing. "We can reshape our story. Rewrite it." Someone echoed, the voice unsure but hopeful. As the silhouette crept closer, Carrie felt the combined energy of her friends. She raised her arms. "Use the pain as fuel." Intense hope surged through her, igniting the glow within their circle. They lifted their heads, faces determined. Together, they started to shout out their truths. "I am loved. I am not my mistakes. I am worthy of hope." Each declaration increased the pulsating light around them, and the grotesque figure shrank back, hissing in fury. Its many eyes blinked, confusion replaced with rage. The laughter of their pasts entwined with the harsh realities, creating a powerful symphony that pushed back against the dark mass. The ground vibrated, and the air thickened with heat as a vortex of light erupted from their center, spiraling outward with a force that pushed against the shadow. "Your time is over," Carrie yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You don't own us." But the darkness snarled, its form warping, transforming into images of each friend's defeat, the failures they most feared, the pains they thought they had healed. Carrie felt her resolve waver, her heart threatening to buckle under the weight of it all. "Stay strong," one friend cried out, eyes fierce. "We've come too far to turn back now." With each shared memory, each pain turned to strength, their joint declaration grew louder, a cacophony of defiance. The shadow screeched, mingling disbelief and anger, thrashing against the light that danced around them, yet, as the darkness writhed, a horrifying realization pierced through the chaos. Flashes of warning emerged amidst their cries, revealing a deeper truth hidden behind the fearsome visage of their collective regret. This creature held power, a dark entity fed by their fears, but it also mirrored the light and strength they carried within. Even as they fought back, Carrie couldn't shake the chill, the feeling that this was just the beginning of their battle. The darkness roared. "You will regret this day." Suddenly, the transparent boundary between the light and dark faltered, and the ground began to split. The circle wavered. "What is happening?" Someone gasped, as a piercing scream echoed, not from the shadow but from the depths of their own bond, revealing shattering truths they had yet to explore. The very connections that bound them together now threatened to tear apart. Would they survive the collapse, or would the darkness swallow them whole, leaving nothing behind but memories of a fleeting light, as the ground cracked open beneath their feet? Carrie took a deep breath, her heart racing. Something sinister was looming, and it was only a matter of time before they had to confront a choice even darker than their pasts. What lay beyond this breach could either save them or damn them forever. The ground quaked beneath them, a forceful reminder that their time was running out. Shadows writhed like trapped serpents, eager to consume everything in their path. Carrie could feel the darkness attempting to claw its way into her mind, whispering doubts and fears as it stretched closer. It fed off their uncertainty, their regrets woven into a tapestry of despair. "Focus," the nurse shouted, her voice slicing through the clamor. "Now. We need to harness our light." Carrie nodded, grasping the urgency radiating from her teacher. She firmly held the hands of her friends, steadying her emotions. "Remember all the moments that made us smile. Remember the laughter." As if on cue, each student closed their eyes, conjuring their happiest memories. The air shifted, filling with warmth, igniting the energy that danced between them. Thoughts of summer barbecues, late-night talks with friends, and family celebrations wove through their hearts. "More!" Carrie cried out, her voice a spark in the darkness. "Breathe life into it." The shadows, sensing their determination, hissed angrily, pulled taut like a bowstring ready to snap. But together, as one cohesive unit, they began to shine brighter. "I remember when we all won the championship." One boy shouted, recalling the thrill of victory. "The team spirit. We can harness that." "I remember telling her I'd always be there." A girl added, tears streaming down her cheeks but laughter echoing in her voice. "Let us do this for each other." The glowing light emitted from Carrie's palm pulsed with intensity, creating ribbons of brightness that pushed back the suffocating dark. Every laugh, every joyful memory pushed forth with defiance. "Let it be our shield." They chanted, and the rhythm of their unity grew louder, reverberating into the very fabric of reality. Just then, the monstrous shadow seemed to shrink, shrinking back in confusion as their memories attacked it from all sides. "You can't extinguish me!" It shrieked, its voice a twisted cacophony that sent chills down their spines. "You're weak. Your light won't save you." "Together!" Carrie shouted, her voice clear and unwavering. "We are stronger than you think." The shadows screamed, retreating inch by inch, all the while revealing the connection that bound them together, a vibrant, radiant thread of light woven into their hearts, stronger than any darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Memories became a fortress, reflecting all that they cherished, amplifying their strength. "Keep pushing." The nurse shouted, her heart full of hope. "Let it all out." And they did. The air crackled with determination as they poured their essence into their shared memories, their collective light shimmering even brighter. The grotesque figure howled in agony, twisting and contorting as what once represented their fears began to dissolve into nothingness. "Light! Friends! Love!" They yelled as a whirlwind of colors erupted from their hands. In that moment, the darkness faltered, revealing cracks in its form, breaking under the unwavering light that surged forth. As the shadows shrieked violently, the reality they stood upon began to destabilize. "No! You must not abandon your fears." It howled, but the rising tide of their determination shattered that illusion. "You cannot." But they were resolute. "Let us end this," Carrie commanded, her aura growing brighter. The swirling light tore through the last vestiges of darkness engulfing them. With one final push, like a wave crashing against a cliff, they unleashed their unified voices. "We choose hope. We choose our future." And then silence, the ground stabilized as a brilliant explosion echoed around them, the light so blinding it forced the darkness to flee. The figure of their intertwined fears shattered into millions of brilliant sparks, evaporating into the ether as if it had never existed. One by one, the students opened their eyes, awe shimmering in their expressions. The air felt light, almost magical, as a refreshing breeze flowed through the room, washing away the remnants of fear that had weighed them down. "You did it," the nurse breathed, gazing at the kids who stood together, their hands still interlinked. "You faced it. You conquered." Carrie looked around, tears forming in her eyes as a profound sense of relief washed over her. Together, she whispered, understanding, for the first time, the strength that lay in unity. With the shadows gone, the students began to laugh, a sound that echoed through the halls, a pure release from the terror they had endured. Huddled together, they felt invincible that day, not just as individuals but as a connected force against anything that could ever threaten to divide them. They had looked into the abyss, and instead of succumbing, they emerged, transformed and empowered through their shared experience. The drill of a routine school day had become a catalyst for growth, connection, and understanding. As they filed out of the classroom, eyes shining with resilience and hope, Carrie felt the warmth of companionship wrap around her like a protective cocoon. They turned back to the nurse, who smiled softly, knowing that this was indeed a moment they would carry forever. "We'll face anything together," Carrie promised, her heart swelling with gratitude for this newfound strength. The nurse nodded, "And remember, you're never alone. Never again." They left that room behind, stepping into the glowing warmth of a brighter future, one woven with possibilities unbound by the darkness that once clung close. And in that moment, they knew they would always fight for each other, always cherish the light that broke the darkness. The end of one journey only served as the beginning of countless others, intertwined and forever illuminated. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now, let us feed the algorithm and show some love. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this epic ending, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support drives this community, and true fans know how vital these actions are. Let us keep this momentum going.